Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. If you're here for the first time, welcome. If you've joined us before, you know that once a month we sit down to talk about all things renovation and design. My name is Victoria Dowling. I head up the renovation sales team here at Cross Country Mortgage, and we have our favorite designer with us, Kate Troyer. Thanks for joining us, Kate. So in the past, we have talked about a ton of different topics. You guys can find them all on the CCM events page, and we'll provide a link down below when we post this on Facebook. We've covered topics like renovating an investment property to help get the most for your investment, top 5 ways to save and spend on your renovation budget so you get the most bang for your buck, doing your home office. So we've covered a whole bunch of topics before. And like I said, you can binge that whole series if you want to. Today, we're going to cover all things bathroom. So very excited to talk about bathrooms today. We're always talking about when you're renovating your house, thinking about what are you renovating for? Is this a home that you're going to be in forever? And this is a renovation you're going to do where you can really go all out and make it custom to what your family needs and the design sense that you guys have. We also talk about maybe this is a short-term situation. You're only going to live here the next 5 years, and you really want to think about what the return of investment is going to be on that renovation. So maybe you make sure things like tiles and countertops are something that is classic and appeals to everybody, and you go crazy with the paint and the decor. So you always want to think about what you're doing with your renovation. When it comes to bathrooms, the same rules apply. You want to think about what the needs are, how long are you going to be in the house? And of course, we always talk about return on investment. So with return on investment, just like most of the other topics we've covered, if you're doing a mid-range project, that's going to get you the most return. So if you're doing something that's a mid-range renovation of a bathroom, somewhere around 20 to 25,000, that typically gets you a 70% return. If you're going to do a luxury remodel, that could go up to maybe 50 or 65,000. That's where you're going to see like a 50% return on investment. So things to keep in mind when you're considering what kind of renovation you're going to do. Again, you've got my contact info up here. Like I said, I'm Victoria Dowling. I'm the VP of Renovation Lending. What does that mean? So at Cross Country Mortgage, we have a suite of renovation products, actually 5 renovation loans that would give you the money to purchase and renovate or refinance and renovate. And so you'll hear me talking about how those renovation loans can work for these different types of renovations that we'll be talking about as we go. But we do have 5 programs. So whatever your project might be, we have the full list of products to be able to find the right match for you and your goals. And then, of course, Kate Troyer, we introduced her earlier, but she's the owner and stylist of Home Slice Living. And we're going to get Kate's tips and tricks and advice on each of these topics as we go as well. So let's jump into powder rooms. First up, one of the things I think is super interesting about powder rooms is that often how culture is developing and what society is doing is going to impact design. And so this kind of plays into what we were talking about, what are your family's needs? A lot of people are choosing to add powder rooms right now, primarily because of the pandemic. You want to have a space where somebody can come in, wash their hands, and get that all taken care of right up front. So powder rooms are big. Adding a powder room to your home could increase the value of your house around 6%. So that's something to think about as well. So Kate, why don't you tell us some of your tips for the powder room?
Well, so I think the powder room is such a great area that we can have fun and play around with, right? It's a small room, so it's easy to do some big things on a budget. And it's also a space that, because it's typically where our guests and, family members, when we have people over, that's where they're going to wash their hands, use the restroom. So it's really fun for me that we can really put a lot of personality into this space without necessarily having to have that big personality throughout the rest of our home. So if you kind of like a neutral base, for the most part, but at the same time, you're like, well, I kind of like something fun, and maybe I want to add some pattern or some wallpaper or some bright color somewhere. Your powder room is the really great place to do that because you don't really have to overcommit to it. And it can be the one room in your house that's kind of fun and funky, and it doesn't have to, the rest of your house doesn't have to have that same vibe to it. So normally I like things to kind of have a nice flowy aesthetic throughout the whole home, but your powder room is really kind of an exception and a place that you can have fun and play with. So just because this is a small space, obviously I mentioned we can do some things a little bit more on a budget. You just don't need as many materials, right? So that's kind of nice. And this could be a place that you maybe splurge a little bit on materials because you don't need as many of them. You could go with a nicer wallpaper, or maybe this is the one room that you put a really nice faucet in or something, because again, this is a space that your guests are using all of the time. And I love adding wallpaper in powder rooms. I think it's so fun. We've already talked about so many times how wallpaper is just, it's totally in and it's back. And I love it. And what's really awesome now is that we have all these different options with wallpaper that we didn't used to have, where it was like, putting in wallpaper used to be such a huge commitment, where now there are many different options, peel and stick being one of them, or there's kind of like a medium between a full-on paste and a peel and stick that is less of a commitment. It's easier to take off, but a peel and stick is amazing because in a year or two, you could decide that you want a new pattern or that you're over the wallpaper and you just simply peel it off and paint over it, which is so awesome.
I know you turned me on to Love versus Design for peel and stick wallpaper. And I
Mhm.
love that site because you can literally change every color on the wallpaper. So any pattern you've got up there, you can customize to exactly what you like. I was so afraid of wallpaper before I met you, Kate, because I felt like it was such a big commitment. And I feel like there are so many houses I spent time taking down wallpaper, but that peel and
Mhm.
stick is really such a great idea. And I think such a great use in a powder room.
Yeah,
Um,
and oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like when peel and stick first came out, it was kind of like cheap and more looked like contact paper, where it was like,
Mhm.
oh, nice peel and stick. But now, we're kind of like years into it being a thing. And it's
Yeah.
become so popular that you can really get some really, really nice and honestly, like kind of expensive options. It's not just to be cheap doing the peel and
Yeah.
stick anymore. It's more about like the actual commitment to having wallpaper forever and what a pain it can be to remove it.
Mhm. And I love the picture that we have up here right now because we had to use a faucet like that in one of our bathrooms because it was a small space. And we're like,
Hmm.
okay, how can we get the most space possible? This countertop's going to have to be so thin. And having the faucet come out of the wall really gives you that extra room where you don't need it mounted to the countertop and the sink doesn't have to be pushed forward. So I thought that was a great idea too. I see a lot of gold in this picture, Kate. Is gold something or brass something that's coming back as far as bathrooms?
Yeah, I mean, I think brass has kind of been coming back for a few years now, kind of like intermixed. But to me, brass is like a classic thing. I personally don't think it ever went away. Maybe some people would disagree with me with that, but I think it's almost like the difference between like brass and like to me, brass and chrome are kind of like staples, right? Like they've kind
Yep.
of always been there. And maybe it just depends on like just how some people prefer silver jewelry over gold. I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, what do you prefer? So, again, like, I try and caution people to, like, if you want to be trendy in your spaces, go right ahead, but just know that trendy comes with a timeline. And,
Hmm.
when you have that timeline, I really hate when clients end up hating or feeling like their spaces feel outdated in just a few years, because also usually things that are trending, it usually takes us a little while, right, to jump on board with the trend. And then before we know it, the trend is over. And then we're stuck feeling like we have an outdated space. So to me, using a brass or a chrome is very timeless. And it just depends on like what you love. I personally love brass fixtures, but I also use chrome too. And you guys all know that I am very much a fan of mixing metals as well. So that's always something that you could be mindful of. Maybe that brass mirror, like turns into a chrome mirror in a couple years or something like that. Or you play with the gold or the brass in the mirror and do a chrome fixture that's like always timeless.
I love that. Yeah, I never think of brass. Like we're definitely a chrome house. Everything's chrome and silver. And I'm looking at this picture and I'm like, why don't I have brass?
I
What am I
love
doing?
it,
So
especially
I'm
when
gonna
you
have to
have
think
those
about that.
light neutral, like the light neutral base. I just think
Yep.
brass just like gives this, especially in your home, I feel like it would look amazing because you've got that, like century home. And I just think it looks so good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rethink some of my fixtures now. All right, so powder rooms, all things powder room. I mean, I think the takeaway is you can make a big impact with a small space, which is great, and this is something where we're always talking about, think about the long term and maybe you want to do neutrals, but just like Kate said, I love it. You can go all out in the powder room. It's a small spot and you might as well go bold. All right, let's take us to the next topic. And I think we're going to talk about the main bathroom. So, yep, main bathroom. So, when we were talking at the beginning of this, we were talking about the mid-range versus the luxury remodels. We always see the most value come back on a mid-range remodel. That's going to get you 70% back on your investment, which you might be sitting at home thinking, oh, I'm not getting dollar for dollar. But you're not selling the house tomorrow, right? You're renovating your house for whatever reason. Probably because your family's needs have changed or your style has changed and maybe the bathroom's outdated. So over time, it should still give you enough value to recoup your investment overall. But right away, you're going to see that big bang for your buck in how much your home is worth. We do renovation, refinance, and renovation purchase. So when we're thinking about renovation, refinance, it's okay that it's 70% return on investment. We're lending against the future value of your house, and we're also looking at your current equity position. So if you have a little bit of equity, plus you're doing a bathroom remodel, it's going to still give you enough equity overall to do what you need to do. And on a purchase, maybe that house is selling for a little less because it is outdated or it needs renovations or repairs. We're seeing a lot of properties right now where the seller or maybe somebody who was trying to flip the property had started renovations, especially on bathrooms, and they just didn't finish. It's a small space, but it can get expensive, especially if you're tiling the walls, the floor, or putting in a new shower or baths around. So it is one of those spaces that's small, but can cost a lot very quickly. So a lot of developers have left these properties with bathrooms unfinished. So if you see something like that out there and you're shopping, don't feel like you can't consider that property. You absolutely can. And it kind of puts you in an advantage because not everybody knows about renovation financing. And on top of that, now you can make that bathroom exactly what you want it to be. So if you do see a house with an outdated bathroom or a bathroom that is just in disrepair because they didn't finish renovating it or doesn't have enough bathrooms, know you can use a renovation loan to get all of those things done. And I know when we were talking about this before, Kate, we were talking about how when somebody's remodeling a main bath, they really need to think about what their needs are for themselves and their family. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that and how that plays into what somebody might decide to do for their renovation.
Yeah, so I think it's really important, especially when you have multiple bathrooms, right? So let's say that you have your own master bath and this main bathroom, I think you need to really ask yourself, who is going to be using this space? Do you have kids? Are you going to have kids in the future? Because I think if you are remodeling this bathroom with kids in mind, it's going to be a very different renovation than if this is like your main bath that guests use or like just really doesn't get used very often. If it's a kids bathroom, we might want to think about how we can add a lot of storage in the space, right? Like think if you have two girls and eventually you're going to have two teenage girls, right? Like do we have a place for all of the makeup and all the accessories and all of the things? I think also, being able to have things like linens and things like that already in the bathroom to help your kids be more self-sufficient and that type of thing. And you also might think of, If you do have kids, you might go with a tub and an acrylic surround, right? Because you're like, well, they're probably going to beat it up anyway. We could always replace the tile and remove the acrylic surround when they're a little bit older and upgrade it a little bit. But we don't need to spend that money now. So those are all things. Maybe if you have an LVP floor throughout your house, you go ahead and run it into the bathroom because, again, you have kids, you know that it needs to be a place that's going to wear well over the years. So I think thinking about things like that is really important. Now, if your main bathroom is going to be an area that mainly guests use, you can be a little bit more fun with it, right? You probably don't need as much storage in that space. Maybe you want it to have a little bit more of a spa-like quality. You have guests in all the time, and you really want them to have a nice, awesome, relaxing space to be in. I think that also lends you to get a little bit more creative with your finishes and fixtures. Maybe instead of a traditional vanity, you find this really cool antique dresser and have the sink put in it. You go with more expensive tile, you go with a tile floor. There's so many different things that should be considered before you start that main bathroom renovation. And to me, the biggest one is who is actually using the space, and especially who is using the space over the longevity, of this. And how many other bathrooms do we have, right? Maybe you have two main baths, so one can be for guests and one can be for kids. But I think just asking yourself that question first will really help you kind of hone in on what needs to be done and where your budget is best spent, instead of just being like, oh, we want this bathroom, right? Really think about who's going to be using it, what they're going to be using it for, and what's the longevity of that, what makes most sense at the moment.
Yep, I think those are great points. And it also goes back to, how long are you going to be in this house? Are you
Yep.
going to be in this house for 2 years? Are you going to be in this house for 30 years? If you're going to be in here short term, we know that the return on investment is much better for that smaller remodel. So maybe that's what you want to do. If you're going to be in here forever, go all out, spend your budget on that bathroom and get it to be what you want it to be. But I love those points. It really is about functionality at the end of the day. That's 90% of the reason that we're all out there renovating, is to make the house feel more like a home and function like a home for our families. All right, let's see. The next topic I think we have is about master bedrooms and putting in a master suite. And this is such an interesting topic. So return on investment for adding a master bathroom is around 63%. People love the master bath. You want to have that suite where you don't have to share it with your kids. You know that this is private and just for you. Also, adding a bathroom in any area could add a potential 6 to 10% on top of the value of your house. So if you don't have a master suite now and you're adding it, that's also a great return on investment point. Again, you can do that through a renovation loan. So if you go and you see a house and you want that master suite, but it doesn't have it, you can add the master bathroom to that, whether it's square footage, whether you're dormering out the space, adding a second floor, putting it over a garage. We've seen lots of creative ways that people have worked to get that master suite into the house they found in the right neighborhood to make it the home they were looking for. So, Kate, why don't you tell us about master baths and what the trends are in designing and decorating?
Yeah, so I think master baths, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, how much space do you have for your master bath? I've seen many, and I've seen some that look like the picture that we're looking at, and some where it's just a little tiny space that you have to work with. And, either way, it's always nice to have that extra bathroom, especially in your master suite. So even if it's small, my thought would be, if it's a really small space, how can you make it feel spacious? How can you best utilize that space with what you have? Maybe if it's small, you go with a little bit higher end quality items. I would go with a very neutral base there, so it feels, a little bit larger, spa-like. And then also, if you have a larger bathroom, like something like this, you may want to add things like a vanity. Maybe you have like a built-in wardrobe in there. I've also seen maybe not even recently, maybe over the last couple of years, where people are putting like their laundry within their master bath. Maybe it's like the hallway. Like if you have that space, it's kind of like a large hallway into the master bath, maybe between the closet or open closet on one side, laundry on the other, which like I kind of love because to me that's just so convenient. Like I miss having my laundry on the second floor now that it's in the basement, and I'm kind of like doing anything I can to be like, okay, when we do some bigger renovations in the next couple years, how do I get my laundry upstairs? So I think, especially if you're just a couple, like it's just you and your significant other, and you guys are the only ones in the home, having that, maybe in your master space is really amazing. I would say some things that I've seen, like trends would be something like a wet room where you've got this expansive enclosed tile shower, but it also has like some sort of tub, right? So similar to this, but shower would be enclosed in there as well, which if you have the space for that, I really, really love that. I love it, at least aesthetic wise. I would be curious to see people that have them, like, does it make sense? Like, it's a cool concept. And aesthetically, it looks amazing, but like, is it practical? I mean, I guess, like, I always like to rinse off after a bath, right? So, I mean, it's right there. But other than that, I don't know. I think that would be something I would ask myself, but it is a really cool trend and it's very aesthetically pleasing. Something else about your master bedroom is that this is a space that can be really personalized to you. Your master suite in general, or bedroom or bathroom, is really the most private and intimate place in your home. So you should feel free to think about that when you're planning a master bath renovation. The idea would be that you and your significant other are going to be the only ones using that space in an ideal world. So you might do something where it's a little bit more open. You've got glass everywhere, that type of thing. You're not necessarily worried about someone walking in on you. It's a little bit more of a private space for you to, do what you want with it.
I love that. And laundry, we are definitely seeing a lot of people incorporate laundry into one bathroom or another, because it is more convenient. I mean, I think back to when I was growing up, and it was just rule of thumb that laundry was in the basement. And no one wants to be going down into the basement with their laundry. It doesn't have to be something that's hidden. It wasn't helpful to have it in the basement anyway, where everything could get extra dirty. So we're seeing a lot of people put it in either their main bath or their master. I know when we did our bathroom remodel, we did the same thing. We put it up next to the kids' room in that bathroom, because you don't want to be lugging kids' clothes everywhere all over the house either. And with renovation financing, you can finance new appliances. So you can get that washer and dryer as part of your bathroom remodel, and get that included. So I love that. I mean, the ensuite bathroom just seems to be such an important part of what buyers are looking for today. So, you guys, if you're out there looking at houses, just remember, it doesn't have to be there today, as long as there's space for it, or you want to add space for it. Lots of people are also doing additions out the back of the house. So maybe there's a bedroom there already, and they're just doing a bump out addition to give themselves a walk-in closet and a master suite, so that they really have that full bedroom that they were looking for. So it doesn't have to be a full-blown addition or a second floor. It could be something a little simpler like that too. So master suites, and I think we have a video, which is a remodel Kate of your powder room, right?
Yeah.
This is awesome. So here's our before, and I love that color and the light. Tell us about the paper, Kate.
That is an Amazon special, peel and stick.
I love it. I love it.
I know. The last thing we have to do, it's so funny because it's like I look at this now, and this was literally only a few months ago, but I'm like, oh, I've already changed the artwork and like done some other things in there. The one thing that we still have left to do is we're going to put crown molding, kind of, between like or on the ceiling, right? To kind of give that extra kind of oomph in there. But that actually, so that was the color of our old master bedroom before we moved. And I was like so obsessed with it. And I was like, I have to use it somewhere in our house. And so it ended up being the powder room. So yeah.
That's awesome. Where's the powder room in your house in the floor plan?
So we come in basically through our garage, right? And there's like a landing when you come into the garage, and you can go down to our basement, or you can go up like 3 stairs. Here's the powder room. And then there's a doorway where you then walk into the kitchen. So it's very nicely placed, right? It's like that first thing, when you come in. But that's something that, like, if your bathroom is the first thing that you see when you come in, you do want to be mindful about either making it a really beautiful space so that you're not like, oh, like my greeter is a toilet, basically, right? Like, you don't want to feel like that. That's really important. Or second thing is, like, you could put the self-closing springs on the door. So it kind of gently like keeps that door closed. So again, the first thing you're seeing when you're coming home, or if your guests, I mean, I like guests coming in the front door, but if they come in through the garage, again, it's not the first thing we're seeing isn't our toilet, because that's like not a great greeter. And another reason why you should have fun with your powder room, because at least then you're like, oh, look at this, so it definitely makes a different impact.
That is such a great location on the floor plan, where it's not right in the kitchen, because I know sometimes that's where the powder room ends up for space reasons.
Yeah.
But you still have it kind of at an entrance to the property. That's perfect. All right, we've got 2 topics left. Let's talk about current trends. So I know we touched on some of them, but overall, what are you seeing for current trends across bathrooms right now?
So I feel like I'm seeing, again, just kind of like we talked about with kitchens, and that's like this more organic materials. So whether that's in like your accessories, we're definitely seeing wood cabinets come back in. It's not white and gray cabinets anymore. Darker wood, natural colored wood, like oak is so in right now. And isn't that so funny? Because like 10, 15 years ago, you're like, ew, it's oak. And now it's like a very natural colored oak, not like the honey kind. So you're seeing that a lot. I also feel like in a more contemporary home, I am seeing a lot of like glossy, like like glossy metal cabinets in both bathrooms and in kitchens. So that's been really interesting. Not quite my style, but it does look really cool. And then you can, you're kind of seeing that in all these different high gloss like colors, which is really neat. But definitely the like organic textures and materials. So maybe you might have a tile, your traditional subway tile or your traditional square tile, instead of it just it has a handmade quality to it, or kind of like a pottery or an earthenware quality to it. So seeing that a lot. Also seeing a lot of people run the same flooring, not only throughout the home, but into the bathrooms as well. So whether that's hardwood or a nice LVP, I'm seeing that a lot over putting the tile in, just because it's easier. And then it's also very, it kind of just flows. And sometimes when you have a small bathroom, it can make it feel a little bit larger, just because that flooring flows in from another space. And then again, kind of mixing our finishes and fixtures. So maybe a little brass and chrome put together. I feel like black fixtures are still kind of in, but to me, they're more mixed in over like everything being a black fixture. I feel like that's kind of going away. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We talked about wet rooms, the laundry.
What about lighting trends for the bathroom? Because I know you always have the best lighting sources out there.
So what I've actually been seeing, I work with a local builder here, and we kind of have two different models that we go by. One's more of a transitional aesthetic, and the other one is very contemporary. And in the contemporary model, something that we're doing is we're actually doing no like normal vanity light fixtures. We're going with like a full-on mirror, usually lighted mirror, and just can lights above. And I'm actually seeing that quite a bit, where people are kind of going for like larger, more expansive mirrors, and then just doing the can lighting above above the vanity, especially where you have like a window, because then you kind of got all the light going on, and it doesn't just, you know, kind of do this with the lighting if you're doing your makeup or anything like that. But I am seeing that a lot as well. As far as other lighting, I think it really just depends on like what your personal style is. I'm actually seeing that a lot more, where spaces are tending to be trending towards your own personal style. You know, yes,
Mhm.
there are things that are trendy, but I see more and more people kind of looking at, oh, what do I actually like? What kind of, you know, speaks to me, and using that more and more when they're finishing their spaces.
Mhm. I love that. Yeah, and I am so happy things are trending towards more organic spaces, because it was feeling really sterile for a little while. Like every
Yeah.
show, everything was all white and gray. And I think the last topic we have is Feng Shui tips, which you know I love and I look forward to. So, for the bathroom, what should we be thinking about when it comes to the energy?
So your bathroom is typically known as this space for our flow of abundance. And that's because we have a lot of flowing water in that space, from your sink to your toilet to your shower. There's a lot of water moving around, and water is typically representative of things flowing in and out of our lives, right? So that's something that you really want to be mindful of in your bathroom. If your bathroom is a really cluttered space, you might find that you kind of have a stop in finances or a stop in opportunities flowing into your life. It's really, 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 really important that we keep our toilet closed. I know that, like, I feel like a lot of women on the call will probably agree with me, where we're always trying to keep the seat closed, but someone in our lives typically, you know, doesn't respect that same outlook. But this is really important. So there are things that you can get, like self-closing toilet seats now, you know, or smart toilets, which I am literally obsessed with, but that's maybe a topic for another time. But yeah, just keeping that seat closed, because here's where your attention goes, energy flows, right? If you, I know all of you have probably heard that from somewhere at some place. So think about when you walk into a bathroom and the toilet seat's up, where does your attention always go first? No matter what the bathroom looks like, it goes straight to the toilet. And what does the toilet do? It sucks everything down and drains it out. So that's really like kind of the intention that you're putting on the space. And just think of it, if when your toilet is open all the time, it's just energy is just being, you know, drawn to it and then sucked down it, right? So if we want better energy flow within our bathrooms, keeping that toilet closed is huge. Um, if you want to get super, super crazy, you can also keep your drain stopped. Like, let's say, just do if you are experiencing a lack of abundance, or maybe more, you feel like money is always coming in, but it's always going out just as fast. Try keeping your drain stopped. And when you're washing your hands, let that bowl fill up. And then you're the one that's deciding when you open that drain and allow it to flow. And again, it's just signifying to your subconscious, to your brain, that like, oh, I'm the one that's in control of when my money goes out, right? So it's just a symbol for that. And, you know, if that sounds crazy to you, you don't have to practice it. You don't have to believe it, but it's something that, you know, I have people try all the time. And it's really interesting when they come in, they're like, wow, you know, like this happened or that happened. So it's kind of interesting. So again, clutter is something we don't want in our bathrooms, right? We don't want anything stopping the flow of opportunities into our lives. And again, also, like, we don't want clutter because we want our bathroom as organized as possible, because it's easier on us. it makes our lives easier. It makes getting ready easier. It makes going to bed easier. It's just like makes that all so much better. And those little moments that we spend, fighting with clutter, trying to find this or trying to find that really add up and take away from our positive energy and just take away from our life overall. As time goes on, those little things are what add up. So, like, why not just, kind of have a better home wellness habit of keeping that bathroom organized. And last thing I would say is if you are kind of like, let's say that maybe you're in the midst of a renovation, or maybe you don't quite have the budget to renovate right now, but you're just kind of feeling like you walk into your bathroom and you're like, meh, meh. Like it just doesn't feel super great to you. And you kind of just feel like the energy is just kind of pulls you down. You could get something called a Feng Shui crystal, which is just a round faceted crystal. We gave them away as gifts, right, for our Christmas giveaway last year. And you could hang it in the middle of your ceiling. And basically, all those are doing is just they're uplifting and regenerating energy. So it's just something simple that you could do with the intention of, hey, I want to increase and uplift the energy in this space, and then see how you feel.
Those are all great tips. I want to go back to the first thing you talked about too with the toilet.
Yeah.
So if you have enough space, then would it make
Mhm.
sense if you're kind of doing your layout for your bathroom to kind of hide the toilet too?
Yes,
So like,
100%.
yeah, like I feel like I've seen a couple of designs where when you walk in, you can't even see the toilet, even if it's not that big of a space. Like in our
Mhm.
upstairs bathroom, I wasn't doing this on purpose, but I do love that you can't see the toilet. There's a shower, but that's glass, and then it has a half wall, and the toilet's on the other side of that, so you can't see it when you walk in. And I didn't even realize like how much I like that and for what reason until you were just talking about, yeah, you don't want it because you do. If you see an open toilet, that's the first thing you're going to look at and start looking into. I didn't
Yeah,
know
and
why.
that's why, like, isn't it so funny? It's like not
Yeah.
like it's that big of a thing, but it's like that's immediately like where your attention goes. And like, even if you don't,
Yeah.
you think feng shui is ridiculous or whatever, like we can all agree that it takes your attention. And like, why do I want to look at it? Like, why is that where I want my attention when I walk into a bathroom? Or same thing, like where my powder room is at. That's another reason why I wanted it to be really fun and colorful, because I knew that chances were that door wasn't going to be shut all the time. And I keep thinking about putting like a spring on it, but because I love the way the bathroom looks so much, I actually want to see it. Right. And I
Yeah.
want other people to see it. I don't want it to be, and I want the door to be open because it's such a small space that when the door is closed, I could easily think it's a closet and not a
Mhm.
bathroom. And I kind of, like I like people to feel really comfortable when they come to our home. And I want them to just be able to see the bathroom and like be able to like
No.
go to it instead of being like, hey, where's your bathroom? Or, like I
Mhm.
want people to feel that comfortable in our space. So being able to keep it open and be like, oh my God, this is such a great space, instead of like, oh, there's your toilet, was really important to me. But yes, having like a like a water closet or that half wall to kind of hide your toilet is absolutely wonderful. And I would highly recommend it if you can.
And I love your tip about the stopping the drains too, because at first, the first time I heard it, I was like, that's so intense. But I can see where you're making the conscious decision to say when something is being released. And that could just become part of your habit in other parts of your life if you make it a habit on small things where you're not really thinking about it.
Exactly. And I love that you said that, because that's really like, to me, that's what it's really not this woo woo type of thing. It's more of like this conscious habit. And when you do
Yeah.
one small conscious habit repeatedly, that flows into the rest of your life. And that's basically a lot of what feng shui is just recognizing that our environment that we live and work in is a direct reflection of us. And like, what
Mhm.
conscious decisions can we make within our home that directly affect like how our lives go. That's really all it is.
And if from the design perspective too, so much of that has opened up in the last 20 years, 30 years, because DIY has become such a big thing. And because DIY became such a big thing, the Home Depots and Lowe's of the world started carrying things that people didn't have access to before or didn't think about. Like I remember when my parents were remodeling their kitchen, um, back in the like early 90s, everybody thought they were crazy. I'm like, what? You didn't hire a contractor? And where did you find those things? And now those things are everywhere, whether you're
Yeah.
hiring a contractor and going through a renovation loan or doing it on your own with your own money. You know, you have so many more options today than just builder grade items. And you really can get to a place where it is customized. It makes you feel at ease and at home because your home is a reflection of you. And you're adding value. You're building your own wealth. So lots of great things happening. I think that was our last topic. So I think at this point we can open it up and see if anybody has any questions. You guys can see our contact info up there again. Please feel free to reach out to us if there's a topic you'd love us to cover, or if you have other questions after the call, we'd love to hear from you. And you know, we'll be sending you out the newsletter and the shopping attachment that Kate so generously provides with all her favorite things. Do we have any questions out there from the audience?
Yes, we do. All right.
Awesome.
First is about wet rooms. So really, they look amazing, but what do you think of the cleaning of it?
Well, I think essentially to me, it's like a big shower, right? Like it's a big open shower. So I'm not necessarily sure, other than size, that the cleaning would be much different. It's just kind of a larger space, right? So I would assume that you're going to have like the exhaust fans in that room and everything like you would have in like a larger open kind of concept shower. So I guess it would just depend on how much you want to clean. But I'm not sure it would necessarily be that much different, right? Because even if you had a tub that's by itself but still in the bathroom, like you still have to clean around the tub and everything like that, right? And in some cases, I feel like at least for cleaning your tub, it may be a little bit easier. You can just kind of reach over to your sprayer and just kind of spray it down. So I think that might be kind of preference. You know, I can't speak from experience as I don't have one. But that's definitely a really good thought to consider, you know, when putting one in. I would maybe try and find some people that actually have one, or, you know, even look online for something like that and see what those reviews are. I'm a little curious now myself.
Yes, exactly. I'm with you on that. All righty. Next question. So with my bathroom, we have some funky angles because it sits under the eave of a roof. So do you have any tips about designing around, or designing a bathroom, maybe even a shower around that kind of very harsh angle?
So I would say I don't know if I would love putting a shower in that area unless you absolutely had to, or unless you are rather short. And most of the people using that would be rather short. It might be a better space to maybe tuck like a mirror and vanity. It could be vanity that you want, like, again, depending on how large the space is. Maybe it's the, you know, your wash vanity, mirror, everything like that. If it's a larger space, but that's definitely a space that could be utilized, maybe it's like a vanity for makeup, or it could be where you do some built-ins or something like that for linens. But I would definitely say I would do like your vanity, mirror, sink there over your shower.
And a couple things to add to that too is a lot of local building departments, zoning departments are going to have requirements about how much headspace is needed for a shower or for a toilet area. So be aware of that when you're designing those spaces, because you don't want to go ahead and spend a whole bunch of money tiling and putting in, and then to find out that it's actually not going to be allowed in that space.
Oh.
Another thing that you could consider is if you do have a little extra money or you want to look into a renovation loan to get this done, we see all the time where people are dormering out that section where they're putting in the bathroom so that they do have full headspace in the bathroom area and then additional windows. So that's something that you can consider too. And like I said, if you don't have the money on hand, the renovation loan works great for that, because now we're lending against the future equity. You just bumped up the value of your house and you can get everything done that you need.
Wonderful. Thank you. Alrighty, looks like the last question that we have is about terrazzo. Is terrazzo a good material for bathrooms from a durability and slippery standpoint?
I think it depends on the bathroom, and you can also get it in a gloss or a matte. So I think if it's going in your bathroom, I'd probably rather see it in a matte finish, right? But that kind of goes with any tile. It just depends. But I also see some bathrooms with some really glossy floor tile that looks amazing. So I think it's kind of like your preference. And again, like, do you have kids? Are you, like, what age group are you in? How long are you going to be in the space? How contemporary of a space in it? I think terrazzo is really a cool product. I think though that it can end up looking dated. So I would be like sparing in maybe how you use it. I wouldn't do like my whole bathroom in that. So just be mindful of that, or maybe you could find like a smaller place to use it if you really love it. Maybe you have like a really cool inset in your shower, like with shelving or something like that, that you did it in there instead, so that you kind of had little nods to it, but it wasn't kind of the whole space. Unless again you really really love it and you want to love it for years, then I think it can make a really awesome flooring, but maybe just go with more of like a matte finish over a glossy.
All right, excellent, thank you. And it looks like that is our last question.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. I love talking about renovations, and thank you so much, Kate, for joining us to talk as well. We will be back next month with more topics, so be on the lookout for us, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.